Well, thanks for that great welcome. It's wonderful to be with you today. It's a Monday morning, and people actually have some pretty good energy. That's a good way to start the week. First of all, I want to thank, I have a couple of my partners here from the legislature, so I want to recognize them. I believe we have Senator John Molinar and we have Representative Bill Rogers. If we could give them a shout out. And thank you, Mary. You did a great job at the last session, and I really appreciate you taking the time because it's about bringing people together. And I know this summit's gone on for a number of years, and it's always worked well, from my understanding, and I appreciate that. But we're going to do things a little bit differently this year. This afternoon, it's going to be more traditional. And I think there are really important breakout sessions that we're going to have on early childhood, on innovation and education, where people are coming up with new ideas, and then partnerships, a lot of great things going on. But much of this morning, and much of the overall theme, is about collaboration, creation, and connection. And what's that all about? Well, first, let me start with a question for you. What's the most important asset for the entire state of Michigan? Think about that for a second. When I ask people quite often that question, I get hands up, and the most frequent answer quite often I get out of people is they'll say the Great Lakes. That's not it. The most precious asset of the state of Michigan are our people, and in particular our young people. And the issue is how do we create an environment of success? And the challenge we have today is the world's changed. The world's changed a lot in the last 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. If I look around this room, I can see a lot of people that the same kind of age group Mary and I are. Remember back when we got out of school, or we were going to school. And you think about what careers you think about. And how much help did we get when we were thinking about the careers we might go into? About the only careers we ever knew about were policeman, fireman, doctor, teacher, lawyer, right? There's very little help. It was basically, you sort of went out and got a job, and quite often you said, I like this field or that field, and you were fortunate if you got into it, and it just sort of worked out. That's not the way the world works today. The world's much more demanding in terms of specifying what you need to have to get a position. And that's only becoming more challenging. And so the issue is, in many respects, for our most precious asset, we've built a system that doesn't work anymore in terms of helping people be successful. And so we need to do something about it. And when I say we, I'm talking nationally, as a country. That too often we give people a great education. There's so many great educators here. You're doing a great job about giving people knowledge, but then we're sort of letting them go out and hoping they connect. And at the same time, employers, where they used to be able to hire a lot of people and be very general, now they're getting extremely specific. So we're finding this mismatch going on. And to make it a real life thing for you, because I'm not making this up, is one of the things I wanted to do was to see what the situation looks like. So we launched mitalent.org last year, this website, a career portal. And we still have too much unemployment in the state of Michigan. We're over 8% still. But on this website, we have over 60,000 open jobs. Good jobs. These are not entry, just that first job you get out at minimum wage. These are good jobs. If we filled those 60,000 plus jobs, we drop our unemployment rate by about 1.5 percentage points. That's a lot. So we need to do something different. And so that's the point of those three words: collaboration, creation, and connection. Because the way I do it, and I took a bunch of econ classes back when I was in college. Collaboration, what's that about? That's about working with the private sector, where most of our jobs are. To say we need to collaborate more with the private sector and have the dialogue asking them the question about where are the jobs today, where are the jobs tomorrow, and what skill sets are required to be successful in those positions. To have a thoughtful dialogue and find out that information. And to be blunt, the private sector hasn't done a very good job of that. They do a very good job about current needs on a per-employer basis. But in terms of aggregating that demand to say what the demand really is out there for today and tomorrow, it doesn't happen. So it's much like if you viewed a graph and you were doing econ and said, okay, here's my demand graph. It would be really fuzzy. It wouldn't be clear at all. And it'd be on its own separate graph. Now the second piece of this is about creating talent. For the education sector people in this room, I thank you for your effort in doing that. That's hard work. That's the creation side, the supply side of that equation. And the thing is again, if you don't know where demand, it makes it tough, but in many respects, we need to do a better job of understanding the supply side and doing that graph. But what we did is we put that on a separate chart. So what we tried to do was sort of violate the laws of Econ 101. Let's do demand over here, let's do it fuzzy. Let's do supply over here very general. I don't know about you, but when I took the class, the best thing to do is to have good charts and put them together and overlay them and see where they match. And that's what we need to do. And that's what the goal of all this is to take collaboration, creation, and connect the two worlds of supply and demand. And I believe the places that do that better than any place else are going to have a true strategic advantage in terms of economic growth, economic opportunity for their citizens. It's that big a deal. Now, whoever does it best and earliest is going to have the strategic advantage. Other people will follow. Once it gets figured out, other people will follow. But in my estimation, it's going to be about a 10 to 20 year strategic advantage for the jurisdictions that do the best job of understanding where the demand for talent is, where the supply of talent is, and connecting those two worlds. And that's the theme today. And that's why I deemed it so important to say, let's spend about half our time on that and not just talk about it today. I hope today's a working session. I don't like nice meetings. I like meetings where there's action coming out of it, where we have things we have to follow up on, things we can do in terms of all that effort. Now, one of the things I thought about when we did the Economic Development Summit, because that was part one, that's why we did it first in March, was to say, let's get the private sector together, and we did that in Kobo, as Mary said, in March. She did an awesome job. And we had about 700 people there to talk about collaboration. A number of those people came here today to continue that dialogue. So we're doing the second piece now with the creation sector, the education sector, to say, let's talk about that, but then put them together. And the point is, the main message is not what I'm going to say. Because I view it as, what's the role of government in all this? I'm here to be a facilitator, a convener. But the best thing that's going to happen is actually if government makes sure we don't get in the way and actually let the private sector talk to the education sector. And bring the two worlds together. That's why I want to thank the business people that came, so you can hear it first person, unfiltered. And we can have that dialogue in those breakout sessions this morning about how people can work more closely together. And what I would say is, this is something we can do at all levels of education. I think there's an opportunity there. It's interesting. One of my favorite things being governor is when I get a chance to go over to the Capitol and I'm walking between meetings, because I get to run into the fourth graders. Because it's usually about fourth grade that comes and does the tours of the Capitol. And they come, and it's a great experience. It gets me more excited than almost anything I do is I get to go talk to the fourth graders, do a picture with them. But ask yourself the question. We invest a lot in bringing fourth graders to the Capitol, and why is that? Because we think it's really important for them to understand government, civics, all those important things. We believe that's in elementary school. Why wouldn't we have the same concept about starting to expose them to the private sector and about careers? About how a car gets made? About how a bank runs? About how you build a house? So again, when we have this discussion, I hope all of you stop and say, this isn't about just asking universities or community colleges or high schools for seniors. This is literally taking it down through early childhood. To say, how do we start exposing our young people to opportunities for connection? Now, one of the things we did in the Economic Development Summit is, I said, instead of me talking, let's get a bunch of students there. So we had 10 students come up on stage. We had 20 there overall. And these are fabulous young people. I see them with us today. Thanks for coming back, guys. These are the stars. Come on. You can stand up. Come up and talk for a couple minutes, but I want to share you a couple stories that I think it struck me in the heart. being proud and with passion, is I'll pick two of the young ladies and their stories. One of them got up and told the story about how she was in Chicago. She'd gotten a job out of school. And she was riding the L around Chicago and had a realization it was time to come home. Chicago wasn't for her. She wanted to come back and work in Detroit. So she left that job to come back to Michigan. Isn't that a story we are all proud of? Don't we all love? Because we'd like to see our kids stay here? Another young lady got up and told the story about how she'd sent out 50 resumes. 50 resumes. You know what she got back from sending out 50 resumes? Nothing. She didn't get declined even. She got no response. That reinforces the point there's a problem. Big problem. And that's why I was so proud that when they got up and did that, that's more powerful than anything I could say. But it also made me proud to see this is the talent we have in our state. They want to be here, and they're working hard to make that happen. So we asked them to come back for this session, not to talk about, again, how their job search is going, but to talk about what would have helped them when they're going through school be more successful at finding a career. That's a big deal. So I hope you really look forward to that, and I hope it's something we can all learn from. The other one is we're going to ask a number of the private sector people to get up here and talk about their perspective after the last one. So the way I view it is this is only the beginning of a dialogue that needs to go on for the next few years. This needs to be action. And it needs to be an action where we're all listening to one another. And this is a situation where one party does not have the answer. This is a puzzle, folks. This is a puzzle where we need to take interlocking pieces of the private sector in collaboration with the education sector and creation, and then working with government and any other sector that wants to participate in making that connection happen. And it's hard to do a puzzle like that. The track record in our country is not good on doing puzzles like that. But as I said, remember that point that I said, whoever does this best has a strategic advantage. I don't know of any Michigander that if you ask their priorities for the future of our state, doesn't have keeping our young people in the state, having them have a career and having a chance to raise their family and seeing their kids succeed as one of their goals. We all have that as one of our goals. So this is a time not to talk. This is a time to say, this is on the list of every single one of us to help those young people succeed. Now we have a chance to do something about it. So let's stand together. Let's work hard today. Let's work hard after today and make that connection happen. I am confident we can do this. We can do this better than anybody else. And by doing this right, we will reinvent Michigan. And we'll be proud when we can look at a table of these young people and say, they're staying in Michigan because they have a career. So let's get the job done. Thank you so much.